They say you never forget your wedding day, but I forgot mine years ago. Alzheimer took that from me, piece by piece, like a thief in the night. But what I will never forget, what burns in my mind with crystal clarity, is the night my daughter threw herself a luxury birthday party and used it as the stage to destroy me. That night, they handed me divorce papers in front of 100 guests. They mocked my failing memory. They laughed at my confusion, and they thought I was too far gone to fight back. They thought the woman I used to be was dead and buried beneath the fog of this disease. They were wrong, because sometimes, just sometimes, Alzheimer gives you a gift. It strips away the pretense, it removes the fear of what people think, and it lets you speak a truth so raw and devastating that it changes everything. That night, when they asked me to give a toast at her party, they expected rambling nonsense from a confused old woman. What they got instead was a reckoning 40 years in the making. My name is Eleanor, though most days I have to remind myself of that fact. I am 73 years old, and I have been living with Alzheimer's disease for 6 years now. 6 years of watching my memories dissolve like sugar in rain. 6 years of reaching for words that scatter like frightened birds the moment I get close. 6 years of looking at photographs of my own life and feeling like I am staring at a stranger. But here is what they do not tell you about Alzheimer's. Sometimes the memories that hurt the most, the ones carved deepest into your soul, those are the last ones to go. And sometimes, in moments of perfect cruel clarity, everything comes rushing back with such force that it nearly breaks you in half. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays are when my caregiver, Patricia, comes to help me sort through the mail. I cannot always remember if I have eaten breakfast or taken my pills, but I remember Patricia's kind hands guiding mine as we opened that heavy cream envelope with gold-embossed lettering. My daughter Vivian was turning 50, and she was throwing herself what she called a milestone celebration at the Rosewood Country Club. Black tie required. RSVP by the 15th. I stared at that invitation for a long time, and Patricia asked me if I was all right. I told her I did not know, because the truth was, I had not seen my daughter in 8 months. Not since the day she sat in my living room, the very living room where I raised her, and told me that I had become an embarrassment to the family. Vivian has always been beautiful in that sharp, controlled way that looks perfect in photographs but feels cold in person. She married a man named Richard, who made his fortune in real estate development, and together they built a life that looks like something from a magazine spread. The right house in the right neighborhood, the right cars, the right friends, the right charity galas. And for years, I was part of that picture. The elegant widow, the respected former professor, the mother who added a touch of intellectual credibility to their social circle. But then the Alzheimer's started, and suddenly I was no longer an asset. I was a liability. It started small, the way these things always do. I would repeat a story at dinner, and Vivian would smile tightly and say, "Mother, you just told us that." I would forget the name of Richard's business partner, and she would apologize for me with that laugh that was not quite a laugh, more like a performance of tolerance. I would arrive at their house on the wrong day, convinced we had plans, and she would look at me with something that might have been pity or might have been contempt. I could never quite tell the difference anymore. And then came the day I got lost driving home from the grocery store, a route I had driven 10,000 times, and I ended up 30 miles away, parked at a gas station, crying and unable to remember my own address. Vivian had to come get me. She did not speak the entire drive back. 2 weeks later, she told me I needed to stop driving. 2 weeks after that, she told me I needed to hire full-time help. And 2 weeks after that, she told me I needed to consider a facility. A facility. Such a clean word for such a devastating thing. She sat in my living room with brochures spread across the coffee table like real estate listings for the end of your life. Look, Mother, this one has beautiful gardens. This one offers art therapy. This one has a memory care unit with experienced staff. She used her business voice, the one she reserves for difficult clients and service workers who have disappointed her. Calm, rational, completely devoid of emotion. I sat there looking at those brochures, at the smiling old people in staged photographs, at the promises of dignity and comfort and specialized care, and something inside me broke. I asked her if she remembered the summer she was 7, and she broke her arm falling from the oak tree in our backyard. I sat with her in the emergency room for 6 hours. I slept in a chair beside her hospital bed. I carried her up and down the stairs for weeks because her cast was so heavy. I asked her if she remembered any of that. She looked at me like I had slapped her. Then she gathered up her brochures and told me we would discuss this when I was being more reasonable. That was 8 months ago. 8 months of silence, except for the occasional text message from her assistant checking on my medical appointments. And now, this invitation, this summons, really, to her birthday party. Patricia asked me if I wanted to go. I told her I did not know. What I meant was that I was terrified. Terrified that I would embarrass myself, that I would forget people's names or repeat myself, or do something that would give Vivian another reason to look at me with that expression I had come to dread. But I was also angry. Angry in a way that felt dangerous and alive and so much better than the fog I usually lived in. Because how dare she? How dare she disappear from my life for 8 months and then expect me to show up in black tie and smile and play the role of the proud mother for her wealthy friends? I told Patricia I would think about it, but the truth was, I had already decided. I was going to that party. I was going to put on my best dress and my mother's pearls, and I was going to walk into that country club with my head high. I did not know what would happen when I got there. I did not have a plan, but something in me, some part of me that the Alzheimer had not yet reached, knew that I needed to be there, that this mattered in a way I could not yet articulate. The week before the party, something strange happened. I started having moments of clarity that were sharper and more sustained than I had experienced in years. It was like the fog that usually clouded my mind would suddenly lift, and I would see everything with painful precision. I would remember conversations from decades ago, word for word. I would understand connections and patterns that had eluded me. And most disturbingly, I would remember things about Vivian, about her childhood, about the choices I made and the ways I failed her, with such vivid detail that it left me shaking. Patricia noticed the change. She asked if I had adjusted my medication. I had not. She asked if I wanted to call my doctor. I told her no, because part of me suspected that whatever was happening was not medical. It was something else, something necessary. I spent those days before the party doing something I had not done in years. I went through old boxes in my attic, boxes I had not opened since before my diagnosis. Photographs, letters, journals, report cards, birthday cards, Mother's Day cards made from construction paper and glue. The entire archive of Vivian's life, or at least the version of it that I had carefully preserved. And as I went through those boxes, as I held those artifacts of motherhood in my trembling hands, the memories came flooding back. But they were not the memories I expected. They were not the warm, golden memories of a happy childhood. They were something else entirely. Something I had spent 40 years trying to forget, trying to bury so deep that not even Alzheimer could excavate them. But here they were, rising to the surface like bodies from a lake. I remembered the day Vivian was born, but not the joy of it. I remembered the disappointment I felt when the doctor said it's a girl. I remembered how I had wanted a boy, how my husband and I had only discussed boy names, how I had to scramble to come up with something, anything, and landed on Vivian because it was my mother-in-law's name, and I thought it might win me some favor. I remembered holding this tiny, red-faced, screaming creature and feeling nothing. No rush of maternal love, no overwhelming connection, just exhaustion and resentment, and the dawning horror that I had made a terrible mistake. I had never admitted that to anyone, not to my husband, not to my friends, not even to myself most of the time. I buried it. I performed motherhood with the same diligence I brought to everything else in my life. I read the parenting books. I attended the school functions. I made the nutritious meals and enforced the bedtimes and helped with the homework. I did everything right on paper, but I never loved her. Not the way mothers are supposed to love their daughters. Not with that fierce, unconditional, world-burning devotion that everyone talks about. I loved her the way you love an obligation you take seriously, with duty and responsibility and a grim determination to do right by this person I had brought into the world. And she knew. Children always know. I could see it in her eyes even when she was small. That desperate, searching look, that constant performance trying to earn something from me that I simply did not have to give. She was so good, so obedient, so accomplished. Straight A student, varsity athlete, debate team captain, valedictorian. She built herself into this perfect, polished, controlled person, thinking that if she just achieved enough, if she just made me proud enough, I would finally look at her with warmth instead of approval. But approval was all I had. I was proud of her accomplishments the way a craftsman is proud of a well-made table, with satisfaction in the quality of the work, but no real affection for the object itself. She married Richard when she was 25, and I remember thinking, thank God, now she is someone else's responsibility. They had a big wedding, over 300 guests, and everyone said how beautiful she looked, how perfect everything was. I gave a speech that made people cry. all about watching my little girl grow into this remarkable woman, all about how proud I was, all about the special bond between mothers and daughters. It was a masterful performance. Vivian hugged me afterward with tears in her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Mom. That meant everything to me." And I hugged her back and felt nothing but relief that I had said the right words, performed the role correctly, made it through another milestone without anyone discovering the truth that I was a monster, that I had given birth to a child I did not want and spent her entire life pretending otherwise, that every "I love you" was a lie, every hug was theater, every moment of supposed maternal affection was carefully calculated to maintain the appearance of normalcy. And the worst part, the part that made me truly monstrous, was that I was not even sorry. I did not lose sleep over it. I did not agonize about my inability to love my own daughter. I simply accepted it as a fact of my nature and moved on. But then I got Alzheimer's, and suddenly I could not maintain the performance anymore. The disease stripped away my ability to pretend, to perform, to say the right things at the right times. The filter between my thoughts and my words started to dissolve, and Vivian, who had spent her entire life trying to earn a love I did not have, finally started to see the truth. The irritation when she visited, the indifference to her accomplishments, the way I would forget her birthday but remember with perfect clarity the publication date of articles I wrote 40 years ago. She started to understand that it was not just the Alzheimer's making me distant. I had always been distant. The disease had just made it impossible to hide anymore. That was why she stopped visiting. Not because I had become an embarrassment. That was the reason she told herself, the reason she told her friends, maybe even the reason she believed. But the real reason was that she finally had permission to stop trying. My diagnosis gave her a socially acceptable excuse to do what she had probably wanted to do for years, to cut me out of her life, to stop performing the role of the devoted daughter to my performance of the loving mother. We were both finally free to stop pretending. Except I was not free, because along with the memories of my coldness, my distance, my complete failure as a mother, came something else. Regret. Not regret that I had not loved her. I do not think I was capable of that kind of love. Something in me was broken or missing or wired wrong from the start. But regret that I had lied. Regret that I had performed and pretended and made her spend her entire life chasing something that did not exist. Regret that I had not been brave enough or honest enough to admit the truth, to free her from that futile pursuit decades ago. She could have grieved the mother she did not have and moved on. Instead, I kept her hoping, kept her trying, kept her trapped in this endless cycle of achievement and disappointment. And now she was turning 50 and throwing herself a party, and she had invited me, and I had no idea why. Was it another performance? A way to show her friends that she was a good daughter taking care of her sick mother? Was it genuine desire for reconciliation? Was it obligation? I did not know, but I knew I had to go. I knew that somehow, in some way, this party was going to be the end of something. Patricia helped me get ready the night of the party. She had taken me shopping earlier that week for a new dress, black silk that still fit well despite the weight I had lost, and she helped me with my makeup and my hair, patient as always when I forgot what we were doing or why. She told me I looked beautiful, and when I looked in the mirror, I saw a ghost of the woman I used to be. Elegant, composed, controlled. For just a moment, I could almost forget that inside this well-dressed exterior was a mind coming apart at the seams. The Rosewood Country Club was everything I expected. Valet parking, crystal chandeliers, waiters in white jackets carrying trays of champagne. Patricia had offered to stay with me, but I told her no. I needed to do this alone. I walked through those heavy doors into a ballroom filled with people I did not recognize, and I felt panic rising in my chest. Too many faces, too many voices, everything too bright and too loud and too much. I stood there frozen, looking for Vivian, looking for anything familiar, and then I heard her voice behind me. "Mother, you came." I turned, and there she was, 50 years old, and she looked so much like my mother that it momentarily disoriented me. When did that happen? When did my daughter become my mother? She was wearing a gold dress that probably cost more than my monthly expenses, and her smile did not reach her eyes. She kissed the air beside my cheek, careful not to smudge her lipstick, and then she took my arm with a grip that was just a little too tight. "I am so glad you could make it," she said, loud enough for the people nearby to hear. Come, let me introduce you around. And just like that, I was back in performance mode. Smile, nod, shake hands, pretend to remember names I would forget in 30 seconds. Vivian guided me through the crowd with practiced efficiency, showing me off like a prize. Look how well my mother is doing. Yes, it is Alzheimer's, but she is managing wonderfully. We are so lucky she can still join us for occasions like this. I played along because I did not know what else to do, but I could feel something building inside me, some pressure that had been accumulating for years, maybe decades, and I did not know how much longer I could contain it. If you have ever watched someone you love disappear into Alzheimer's, if you have ever felt that helpless rage as the disease steals them piece by piece, if you have ever wanted to scream at the unfairness of it all but had nowhere to direct that scream, I need you to do something for me right now. I need you to leave a comment below that says, I see you, I hear you, you are not alone. Just those words. I see you, I hear you, you are not alone. Because I need to know that someone understands what I am about to tell you. I need to know that somewhere out there, someone gets how complicated this disease makes everything, how it tangles love and resentment and regret into knots so tight you can never untangle them. And maybe, just maybe, by leaving that comment, you will help someone else who is reading these words feel a little less isolated in their own complicated grief. So please, right now, pause and leave that comment. I see you. I hear you. You are not alone. Let's build something here together. Let's create a space where the messy, difficult truth of this disease can be spoken out loud. The dinner was elaborate, course after course of food I could not taste because my stomach was churning with anxiety. I was seated at a table with people I did not know, and they made polite conversation around me, occasionally directing comments my way that I struggled to follow. Vivian was at the head table with Richard and their closest friends, and I watched her laugh and toast and perform the role of the birthday girl with the same skill I had once brought to performing the role of mother, like daughter, I thought bitterly. Both of us spending our lives pretending to be something we are not. After dinner, Richard stood and called for everyone's attention. He gave a speech about Vivian, about her beauty and intelligence and grace, about what an incredible wife and partner she was, about how lucky he felt to spend his life with her. It was a good speech, practiced and sincere sounding, and everyone applauded. Then he invited others to share toasts, and various friends stood and told charming anecdotes about Vivian, about trips they had taken together and causes they had supported and memories they had made. More applause, more champagne, more laughter. And then Richard looked directly at me. And of course, he said with that smile that I had never quite trusted, we must hear from the woman who started it all, Vivian's mother, Eleanor. Please share some words about your daughter on this special night. The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at me. I felt my heart hammering in my chest, felt the familiar fog of confusion starting to descend, felt panic clawing at my throat. I looked at Vivian, and she was staring at me with an expression I could not read. Dread, maybe, or curiosity, or some mixture of both. I stood up slowly, my hands shaking. Someone handed me a microphone, and I held it like it might explode. I opened my mouth, and nothing came out. The silence stretched. People started to shift uncomfortably in their seats. I saw Vivian close her eyes, saw Richard's jaw tighten. They thought I was going to embarrass them. They thought the confused old woman was going to ramble incoherently and ruin the perfect party. And then something happened. The fog lifted, not gradually, but all at once, like a curtain being ripped away, and I remembered everything. Every single detail of every single moment of Vivian's life and mine. The good, the bad, the unbearably ugly. It all came rushing back with perfect, terrible clarity, and I knew exactly what I needed to say. But before I could speak, Richard stood up again. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. Actually, he said, before Eleanor shares her toast, there is one more piece of business to attend to. He walked over to where I was standing and handed me the envelope. His smile was gone now, replaced with something cold and legal. Eleanor, he said, these are divorce papers from your husband's estate. We have been trying to serve them to you for months, but given your condition, we thought perhaps a public setting might ensure you understand their importance. Your husband filed for divorce 6 months before his death. You were never legally married at the time of his passing. This affects the estate, the house, everything. We need your signature. The room erupted in whispers. I stared at the envelope in my hands, and for a moment, the fog did try to return, tried to pull me under into confusion and disorientation, but I fought it. I held on to that clarity with everything I had, because I remembered now. I remembered everything. My husband had not filed for divorce. He had been dead for 12 years. This was something else. This was Vivian and Richard trying to take the house, trying to use my confusion against me, trying to make me sign away everything in front of a room full of witnesses who would testify that I seemed coherent and willing. This was not just cruelty. This was theft. I looked at Richard, then at Vivian. She would not meet my eyes. And I understood. This whole party, this invitation after 8 months of silence, this request for a toast, it was all theater. It was all designed to humiliate me, to demonstrate my incompetence, to make me sign those papers and then shuffle off into whatever facility they had chosen for me. This was not a birthday party. This was an execution. I set the envelope down on the table without opening it. I adjusted my grip on the microphone, and I began to speak. Part 2. Thank you, Richard, I said, my voice steady and clear. We will address those papers in a moment. But first, since you have so graciously invited me to toast my daughter on her 50th birthday, I would be remiss not to honor that request. After all, I have had 50 years to prepare these remarks. 50 years of watching Vivian grow from a baby I did not want into a woman I do not particularly like. And I think it is time I was honest about that. The whispers stopped. The room went completely silent. Vivian's eyes snapped open, and she stared at me with something that looked like horror. Richard took a step toward me, but I held up my hand, and something in my expression made him stop. You want to know about my Alzheimer's? I continued. You want to mock my failing memory, my confusion, my decline. You think I am so far gone that I will not understand what you are trying to do to me tonight. But here is what Alzheimer's does that no one tells you. It strips away the lies. It takes all the careful pretense you have built over a lifetime and burns it to the ground. And sometimes, in moments like this, it gives you a clarity so sharp it could cut glass. So let me be very clear, so clear that everyone in this room understands. I do not have Alzheimer's. The gasps were audible now. Vivian stood up, her face pale. Mother, what are you? Sit down, Vivian. I am not finished. She sat. Everyone sat. They were riveted now, unable to look away. 6 years ago, I went to my doctor because I was having memory problems. Nothing major, just the normal forgetfulness of getting older. But I was scared. My own mother had Alzheimer's, and I had watched it destroy her, and I was terrified I was heading down that same path. So I got tested, extensive testing, cognitive assessments, brain scans, everything. And do you know what they found? Nothing. Some age-related decline, completely normal for a woman in her late 60s. No Alzheimer's, no dementia, nothing. But then something interesting happened. The doctor mentioned, almost in passing, that people sometimes fake cognitive decline, usually for legal reasons, to avoid prosecution or responsibility for something. And in that moment, I had an idea. A terrible, brilliant idea. What if I let everyone think I had Alzheimer's? What would happen? Who would show their true colors when they thought I was too confused to notice? I let the words hang in the air. I watched the understanding dawn on faces around the room. Vivian looked like she might be sick. So I played the part, I said. I started repeating myself at dinner parties. I started forgetting names. I started showing up on the wrong days. I stopped driving, hired Patricia, let Vivian bring me brochures for memory care facilities, and I watched. I watched very carefully to see what people would do when they thought I was losing my mind. I watched to see who would step up and who would step away. I watched to see who loved me and who just loved the version of me that was useful to them. And Vivian, darling, you failed spectacularly. Vivian stood again, tears streaming down her face now. That is not fair, she said, her voice breaking. You put me through hell. You made me think I was losing you. You were never losing me, I interrupted, because you never had me, and that is my fault, not yours. I should have told you years ago that I was never cut out to be a mother, that I spent your entire childhood going through the motions, doing what was expected, but never feeling what I was supposed to feel. You deserved better than that. You deserved a mother who loved you fiercely and unconditionally, but I was not capable of that. And instead of being honest about it, I lied. I performed. I made you spend 50 years trying to earn something from me that I did not have to give. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Vivian was sobbing now, mascara running down her face, her perfect party destroyed. Part of me felt triumphant. Part of me felt sick. But here is the truly interesting part, I continued. Once I started pretending to have Alzheimer's, once I stopped performing competent, composed Eleanor, something unexpected happened. I started to feel free from expectations, free from having to maintain the facade. And in that freedom, I started to understand things about myself that I had spent decades avoiding. I started to understand that my inability to love you the way mothers are supposed to love their children was not a personal failing. It was just a fact of who I am. Some women are not meant to be mothers. I was one of them. But society told me I had no choice. So I had you anyway, and then spent your entire life resenting you for existing while simultaneously resenting myself for resenting you. And you, Vivian, you spent your entire life feeling that resentment and thinking it was your fault, thinking if you were just better, smarter, more accomplished, prettier, more perfect, I would finally love you the way you needed. So you built yourself into this flawless, controlled, untouchable person. You married a man who treats you like a business asset. You throw parties like this where everything is perfect on the surface but hollow underneath. You became me. Or rather, you became what I pretended to be. And now you are 50 years old, and you still do not know who you actually are beneath all that performance. I stopped, took a breath. Vivian was staring at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe we both were. Now, I said, let's address these divorce papers. I picked up the envelope and opened it, scanned the contents quickly. As I suspected, these are fraudulent. My husband died 12 years ago. We were married for 38 years, and he never filed for divorce. What this is, I said, looking at Richard, is an attempt to steal my house by taking advantage of a woman you thought was too confused to understand what she was signing. That is elder abuse, Richard. That is fraud. And every single person in this room just witnessed it. Richard's face went from red to white. Vivian looked at him, betrayal dawning in her eyes. You told me these were real, she whispered. You said it was to protect the estate, to make sure everything was handled properly. He lied to you, I said. The same way I lied to you your entire life. The same way you lie to yourself every single day. We are all liars here, Vivian. The only difference is that tonight I decided to stop. I set the papers down and looked around the room. All these people in their expensive clothes, drinking expensive champagne, celebrating a woman they probably did not really know at a party that cost more than most people make in a year. What a waste, I thought. What a monumental, tragic waste of time and money and life. I know what some of you are thinking, I said to the room at large. You are thinking I am a monster, that what I just admitted about not loving my own daughter makes me irredeemable. And maybe you are right. I do not know. What I do know is that I am tired of pretending, tired of performing, tired of living in a world where we are all so desperate to maintain the illusion of perfection that we destroy ourselves and each other in the process. I looked back at Vivian. She was still crying, but quietly now, her whole body shaking. I am sorry, I told her. Not sorry that I did not love you the way you deserved, because I do not think I could have done that no matter how hard I tried, but sorry that I lied about it. Sorry that I let you waste 50 years trying to fix something that was never your fault. You could have been free decades ago if I had just been brave enough to tell you the truth. What truth? She said, her voice barely a whisper. That you never wanted me? That I was a mistake? No, I said. The truth that not all mothers are capable of the kind of love the world tells us we are supposed to feel. The truth that biology does not guarantee connection. The truth that sometimes two people are related by blood but complete strangers in every way that matters. And the truth that none of that makes you unlovable. It just means you had the wrong mother. You deserved someone who would have burned the world down for you. Instead, you got someone who saw you as an obligation. That is not your fault. That is not your failure. That is mine. I set the microphone down on the table. The room was still silent, every eye on me. I felt exhausted suddenly, bone deep tired in a way that had nothing to do with age or illness. I am leaving now, I said. And Vivian, I hope you understand that this is goodbye. Not because I do not wish you well. I do. I hope you find whatever it is you are looking for, though I suspect you do not know what that is yet. I hope you stop performing and start living. I hope you learn to grieve the mother you did not have instead of spending the rest of your life trying to resurrect her. But I cannot be part of your life anymore. It is not good for either of us. We bring out the worst in each other, and we always have. I started to walk toward the exit. People moved out of my way like I was radioactive. I could hear whispers starting up behind me, could imagine the gossip that would spread from this night, the scandal of it, the drama. Let them talk. I did not care anymore. Eleanor. I stopped, turned. Vivian had stood up and taken a few steps toward me. Her makeup was ruined, her perfect composure shattered, but there was something in her face I had never seen before, something raw and real. "Did you ever?" she started, then stopped, swallowed, tried again. "Did you ever even like me?" I thought about lying, thought about softening it, giving her something to hold on to, but I had promised truth tonight, and I was going to see it through. "Sometimes," I said, "when you were being yourself instead of trying to impress me, there were moments, brief ones, where I caught glimpses of who you might have been if you had not spent so much energy trying to earn my approval. In those moments, I liked you very much, but they were rare. Most of the time, you were too busy performing to let me see anything real." "And whose fault was that?" she said, anger flashing through the tears. "You made me that way. You taught me that love had to be earned, that I had to be perfect to deserve attention. You created this. You are absolutely right," I said. "I did. And I am sorrier for that than you will ever know. But Vivian, you are 50 years old. At some point, you have to stop blaming me and take responsibility for who you choose to be now. You can spend the rest of your life angry at me for failing you, and you would be justified. Or you can accept that your childhood was what it was, grieve it, and build something different for yourself going forward. That choice is yours." I turned and walked out before she could respond. The night air hit me like a slap, cold and clean. I stood there on the steps of the country club, breathing hard, feeling like I had just run a marathon. Patricia was still there, waiting in the parking lot like I had asked her to, and when she saw my face, she hurried over. "How did it go?" she asked. "Honestly," I said. For the first time in my life, I was completely honest. She did not ask for details, just took my arm and guided me to the car. As we drove away, I looked back at the country club, at the light spilling from its windows, at the life I had just walked away from, and I felt something I had not felt in years. Not joy, exactly, not relief, something quieter and more profound. I felt like myself, not the self I had performed for decades, but the actual, flawed, complicated, imperfect person I had always been underneath. Parte 3. The next few weeks were strange. The story of what happened at Vivian's party spread quickly through her social circle and somehow made its way online. I became a minor internet sensation, the Alzheimer's faker who destroyed her daughter's birthday party with a brutal honesty toast. People had opinions, strong ones. Some called me a monster, an abusive mother who had traumatized her child and then compounded the damage by publicly humiliating her. Others called me brave, a woman who dared to speak an uncomfortable truth about motherhood that society refuses to acknowledge. I did not read most of it. I had said what I needed to say, and other people's interpretations were not my concern. Patricia asked me one morning over coffee if I regretted it. "Regret is complicated," I told her. "I regret that it had to happen that way, in front of all those people, with that level of cruelty. I regret that I did not have this conversation with Vivian privately, decades ago, before the resentment and pain built to that level. But do I regret telling the truth? No, I do not. We were both living in a prison of lies, and somebody had to break us out." "What about the divorce papers?" she asked. "What are you going to do about Richard?" I smiled. "I am going to do nothing. I have already contacted my lawyer, provided her with the evidence of Richard's fraud attempt, and she assures me that not only is my house safe, but Richard could face criminal charges if I choose to pursue them. I probably will not, though. I think he has been punished enough. Vivian has left him, apparently. Moved in with a friend, filed for actual, real divorce papers. I heard this all secondhand through my lawyer, not from Vivian herself. We have not spoken since that night, and I do not expect we will. That door is closed now, for both of us. "Do you miss her?" Patricia asked gently. I thought about it, considered the question honestly. "No," I said finally. "How can you miss someone you never really had? What I miss is the idea of what we could have been if I had been different. But missing an idea is not the same as missing a person." The doorbell rang then, interrupting our conversation. Patricia went to answer it and came back with an envelope. It had been hand-delivered, no return address. I opened it carefully, half expecting something legal or threatening. Instead, I found a letter, handwritten on expensive stationery. Vivian's handwriting, unmistakable even after all these years. "Eleanor," it began. "Not mother, not mom, just my name. I do not know if I will ever send this letter or if I will just write it and burn it, but I need to put these words somewhere, even if you never read them. The night of my birthday party, you destroyed me. You took every fear I have ever had about myself and confirmed it in front of everyone I know. You made me look at the central relationship of my life and see it for what it really was. Nothing. Empty performance. 50 years of chasing someone who was never really there. I have spent the weeks since that night in therapy, intensive therapy, multiple sessions per week. And you know what my therapist keeps saying? She keeps saying that you gave me a gift. A brutal, devastating, incredibly painful gift, but a gift nonetheless. You freed me from the delusion that if I just tried harder, achieved more, became more perfect, you would finally love me. You freed me from a fantasy I have been living in my entire life. And as much as I hate you for how you did it, I am starting to understand that it needed to happen. I have left Richard. The divorce papers he tried to trick you into signing were his idea alone, I swear to you. He told me it was about protecting assets, about making sure everything was properly documented given your supposed condition. I trusted him. I should not have. I should have questioned it. But I was so used to outsourcing my decision-making to people I perceived as more competent than me. That stops now. I do not know who I am without the role I have been playing. I do not know what I actually want versus what I think I should want. I do not know how to be authentic when I have spent 50 years learning to be perfect. But I am going to figure it out. I am going to do the work, and I am going to do it without you, without Richard, without anyone who has expectations of who I am supposed to be. I am not writing this letter to forgive you. I am not there yet, and I may never be. What you did to me, the years of coldness and distance and emotional unavailability that damaged me in ways I am only beginning to understand, and your confession, as honest as it may have been, does not undo that damage. But I am writing to tell you that I finally understand something. You were right. This is not about you anymore. This is about me choosing who I want to be from this moment forward. And I choose to stop performing. I choose to stop chasing a love that does not exist. I choose to grieve and heal and build something real. I do not know if that helps you sleep better at night. I do not know if you need my understanding or if you are beyond caring what I think, but I needed to write it down. I needed to say that despite everything, despite the pain and the damage and the years of dysfunction, you taught me something valuable that night. You taught me that honesty, even brutal honesty, is better than living in a comfortable lie. You taught me that some relationships cannot be salvaged and should not be. You taught me that it is never too late to stop pretending and start living. I will not see you again. We both know that. This chapter of both our lives is closed, but I wanted you to know that I am going to be okay. Maybe not today, maybe not this year, but eventually. I am going to figure out who Vivian is when she is not busy being your daughter or Richard's wife or society's version of a successful woman. I am going to find myself underneath all that performance. And when I do, maybe I will finally understand what you meant when you said you caught glimpses of who I might have been. Maybe I will become that person. Goodbye, Eleanor. I hope whatever remains of your life brings you something resembling peace. The letter was unsigned. I read it twice, then set it down on the table. Patricia was watching me carefully. Is everything all right? She asked. I nodded. Yes, I said. I think it is. And here is the part that no one expected, least of all me. The part that changes everything I just told you. The part that makes this story more complicated than a simple narrative of a cold mother and her damaged daughter. I do have Alzheimer's. Not 6 years ago when I first claimed to. The diagnosis then was real. I was faking the severity, performing confusion that was not as bad as I let on. But the disease was there, mild but present. And in the years since, it has progressed. Slowly at first, then more rapidly in recent months. The moments of clarity I experienced before Vivian's party, the sudden sharp memory of everything, that was not a gift or a final moment of lucidity. It was a symptom. Sometimes, before a major cognitive decline, Alzheimer's patients experience a phenomenon called terminal lucidity, where they suddenly seem to improve dramatically. The fog lifts, memories return, they seem almost like their old selves. And then, days or weeks later, they plummet into severe decline. That night at the country club, when I gave that brutal, honest toast, I was experiencing terminal lucidity. Everything I said was true. My complicated feelings about motherhood, my inability to love Vivian the way she deserved, my resentment and her damaged attempts to earn my approval, all of it was completely honest. But my claim that I did not have Alzheimer's, that I had been faking it all along, that was the disease talking. That was confusion presenting itself as clarity. That was my failing brain constructing a narrative that felt coherent, but was not based in reality. I know this now because Patricia finally insisted I see my doctor after the party, concerned about the dramatic change in my behavior. We did new scans, new tests. The Alzheimer's has advanced significantly. I am in the middle stages now, and the prognosis is not good. Within 6 months to a year, I will likely need full-time memory care. The person I am now, the person telling you this story, will not exist much longer. She will be replaced by someone else, someone who cannot remember her daughter's name, or why she feels sad, or what any of this meant. So here is the truth, the real truth. Underneath all the layers of performance and confession and disease, I am not sure what I actually feel about Vivian. I am not sure if my coldness toward her was a fact of my nature, or a symptom of undiagnosed depression, or a product of the societal pressures I internalized, or some combination of all of those things. I am not sure if I ever really loved her, or if I just thought I did not, because that made the distance between us easier to bear. I am not sure if the brutal honesty I unleashed at her party was necessary truth-telling or cruel projection of my own self-hatred. I am not sure of anything anymore except that I am dying, slowly, piece by piece, and I used my last moments of clarity to devastate my daughter. Was it worth it? Did it free her, like her letter suggested, or did I just compound 50 years of damage with one final act of cruelty? I do not know. I will never know, because by the time she figures out who she is without me, I will be too far gone to understand what that means. Patricia knows now. I told her everything after the doctor's appointment. She cried, which surprised me. I had not realized she had become that attached. She asked me what I wanted to do with whatever time I have left. I told her I wanted to tell this story. I wanted to put it all down, every complicated, messy, uncomfortable bit of it, so that maybe someone else might understand that Alzheimer's does not just steal your memories, it steals your ability to make sense of your own life. It turns your past into a puzzle with missing pieces, and you never know if what you are remembering is truth or fiction, or some twisted combination of both. So here is what I want you to understand. If you are caring for someone with Alzheimer's, know that the person saying terrible things, revealing ugly truths, behaving in ways that seem cruel or out of character, that might be the disease talking. Or it might be suppressed truth finally breaking free. Or it might be both at the same time, so tangled together that even the person speaking cannot tell the difference. Do not assume you know which it is. Do not assume they know which it is. Just hold the complexity of it. Hold the possibility that someone can be simultaneously telling the truth and losing their grip on reality. And if you are the child of someone with Alzheimer's, someone who has said things that hurt you, devastated you, changed how you see your entire history together, I am so sorry. You deserve clarity that you may never get. You deserve to know what was real and what was disease, what was always true and what is confusion masquerading as confession. But you may never get that certainty. You may have to live in the ambiguity forever, and that is brutally, impossibly unfair. I do not know if Vivian will ever learn the full truth. That I do have Alzheimer's, that my claim of faking it was itself a symptom, that everything I said was both completely honest and potentially completely unreliable. Part of me wants her to know. Part of me thinks it is kinder to let her have the narrative from my letter, the story of a cold mother who finally told the truth. At least that story makes sense. At least it gives her something concrete to work with. The reality is so much messier. The reality is that I might have loved her deeply and been unable to show it because of my own damage. Or I might have truly not loved her and only thought I did because that is what I was supposed to feel. Or my feelings might have been complicated and contradictory and changed day by day, year by year. And now I will never be able to untangle them because the part of my brain that could make sense of emotion is dissolving. What I do know, what I hold on to in my clearer moments, is this. Vivian deserved better. She deserved a mother who was either wholly present or wholly absent, not this confusing middle ground of performance and distance. She deserved clarity. She deserved love that was obvious and uncomplicated. She deserved to not spend 50 years wondering if she was enough. None of what happened between us was her fault. All of it, the distance and the damage and the devastating party toast, All of it traces back to my failures, my inability to be what she needed, my inability to be honest about that inability, my inability in the end to even know what was true and what was delusion. If you have stayed with me through this entire story, through all its contradictions and uncomfortable truths, I want to ask something of you. I want you to subscribe to this channel, not because I'm going to keep making videos. I will not be able to soon, but because I want this story to reach other people who are navigating the impossible maze of Alzheimer's and complicated family relationships. I want the people who are caring for parents who say terrible things to know they are not alone in that confusion. I want the people who are being cared for, who can feel themselves losing the thread of their own lives, to know someone understands how terrifying that is. This channel is not about me. It is about all of us trying to make sense of a disease that destroys sense-making itself. So please, click that subscribe button. Be part of a community that can hold hard truths and uncomfortable ambiguity. Be part of something bigger than any one person's story. I think about Vivian every day. I try to remember her face, and sometimes I can, and sometimes I cannot. I try to remember moments from her childhood, and they slip through my fingers like water. I try to hold on to the truth of who we were to each other, and the harder I grip, the faster it dissolves. Patricia suggested I keep a journal, write down what I remember while I still can. So I have been doing that, filling page after page with memories that may or may not be accurate. I write about the day Vivian took her first steps, and I remember feeling proud but also trapped, realizing that she was becoming mobile and would need even more attention. I write about her high school graduation, how she gave the valedictorian speech and everyone stood and applauded, and I felt nothing but relief that she had succeeded, so I did not have to explain a failure. I write about her wedding day, walking her down the aisle because her father was already gone, and feeling like an imposter performing a role in someone else's life. But then I also write about other moments. Small ones. The time she was 9 and made me breakfast in bed for Mother's Day, burned toast and watery orange juice, and the look of pure hope on her face when she handed it to me. The time she was 16 and came home crying because a boy had broken her heart, and I held her while she sobbed even though I did not know what to say. The time she was 22 and got her first real job and called me before anyone else to share the news, her voice bright with excitement and pride. In those memories, I feel something. Not the overwhelming maternal love that people write poems about, but something softer. Affection, maybe. Care. A desire for her happiness that was not just about my own reputation. Were those moments real? Did I actually feel those things? Or am I reconstructing them now, filling in emotional blanks with what I wish I had felt? I cannot tell anymore. And that is the cruelest part of this disease. It does not just take your future, it takes your past, too. It makes everything you thought you knew about yourself questionable. There are days now where I wake up and do not remember the party. I do not remember what I said, or why Vivian is not speaking to me. Patricia has to remind me gently, and each time she does, I feel the shame and regret crash over me fresh, like it just happened. There are other days where I remember the party but forget that I have Alzheimer's, and I spend hours feeling triumphant about my honesty, proud of myself for finally telling the truth, before Patricia gently corrects that narrative too. And there are days, increasingly frequent, where I do not remember Vivian at all. Patricia will mention her name, and I will look blank, and she will show me photographs, and I will stare at this stranger's face and feel nothing but confusion. Those days terrify me the most, not because I miss Vivian in those moments. I cannot miss someone I do not remember, but because I understand, in some distant abstract way, that I am supposed to have feelings about this person, that she is important, that there is history and weight and meaning that I should be able to access but cannot. It is like reaching for a book on a shelf and finding empty space where it should be. You know something is missing, but you cannot remember what it was or why it mattered. I have started making videos, short ones, just a few minutes each, talking directly to the camera about what I am experiencing. Patricia sets up the phone, presses record, and I talk. Sometimes I am coherent. Sometimes I ramble. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I get angry at the unfairness of it all, at having to lose myself piece by piece while still being aware enough to mourn each loss. I do not know if anyone will ever watch these videos. I do not know if they will help anyone, but they help me, in the moment, to feel like I am doing something, like I am documenting this experience for some future purpose, even if I cannot articulate what that purpose is. In one video, I talked about the guilt. The crushing, omnipresent guilt of knowing I hurt my daughter and not being sure if it was necessary or just cruel. Of knowing that my last clear communication with her was devastating, and now I cannot take it back, or explain it, or provide any context that might soften it. The guilt of leaving her with more questions than answers, more pain than closure. I cried through most of that video. Patricia asked if I wanted to delete it. I said no, let it stay. Let someone see that this disease does not just affect memory and cognition, it affects everything. Your relationships, your sense of self, your ability to make amends or find peace. In another video, I talked about the fear, the bone-deep, existential fear of knowing what is coming. I have watched Alzheimer's before. I know the stages. I know that soon I will not recognize my own reflection. I will not remember how to use a fork or brush my teeth. I will forget how to speak, how to walk, how to swallow. I will become an infant again, helpless and dependent, but without an infant's innocence or potential for growth. There is only decline ahead, only loss, only the slow, painful erasure of everything that makes me me. And I am aware enough right now to see it coming, to watch it approach like a tsunami on the horizon, and there is nothing I can do to stop it. But there is also something else in these videos, something I did not expect. Relief. Strange as it sounds, there is relief in letting go. Relief in not having to maintain the performance anymore. Relief in not caring what people think, because soon I will not remember who people are or why their opinions mattered. Relief in the simplicity that is coming. I will not have to wrestle with complicated emotions about Vivian, or sort through decades of regret or wonder if I was a good person, or analyze my motivations. I will just be present in each moment, uncomplicated by past or future. There is a kind of peace in that, even if it is the peace of oblivion. I think about Vivian's letter often, in the moments when I can still remember it. She said she is going to figure out who she is without me. She said she is going to stop performing and start living. I hope that is true. I hope she finds whatever it is she is looking for. I hope she builds a life that is authentic and fulfilling, and not shaped by the absence of my love. I hope she finds people who can give her what I could not. And I hope, though I have no right to hope this, that she eventually forgives me, not for my sake, because I will not be here in any meaningful way to receive that forgiveness, but for hers. Because carrying that anger and pain and resentment, that is a performance too, and she deserves to be free of it. Patricia asked me yesterday what I want to happen when I can no longer care for myself. Do I want to go to a facility? Do I want hospice care at home? Do I have preferences about end-of-life interventions? These are practical questions, necessary questions, but they feel impossible to answer. How do you plan for your own erasure? How do you make decisions about a future self who will not remember making those decisions or understand why they matter? I told her I trust her judgment. Whatever seems most humane, most dignified, least painful for everyone involved. She cried again. I am making her cry a lot these days. I feel badly about that, but not badly enough to lie or soften things. If there is one gift this disease has given me, it is the inability to pretend. I am too tired and too broken to perform comfort I do not feel. I have been thinking about my own mother a lot lately. She died of Alzheimer's when I was 45, when Vivian was still in college. I remember visiting her in the memory care facility where she spent her final years. She did not recognize me most of the time. She would call me by her sister's name or her mother's name, or sometimes just stare at me like I was a stranger who had wandered into her room. I visited dutifully every week, because that was what good daughters did, but I did not feel much during those visits. Sadness at the loss of who she had been, yes. Discomfort at seeing her reduced to this confused, diminished version of herself, but not the profound grief that I thought I should feel. Now I wonder if I learned my emotional distance from her, if her inability to show affection, to be warm and maternal, passed down to me like genetic code. If the coldness I showed Vivian was not some unique failing of my own, but a pattern inherited across generations. And if that is true, then what about Vivian? Did she learn performance and perfectionism from me the way I might have learned emotional unavailability from my mother? Are we all just passing down damage, generation after generation, doing our best but never quite breaking free of the patterns that shaped us? There is no way to know now, no way to go back and analyze the genealogy of dysfunction. But it offers a kind of comfort, I suppose, the idea that I was not uniquely monstrous, that I was just continuing a pattern I did not understand or recognize until it was too late to break. It does not excuse anything, but it contextualizes it, makes it feel less like personal evil and more like inherited tragedy. I have been sorting through my things, slowly, on the days when I have energy and clarity, deciding what to keep and what to throw away. It is strange to look at a lifetime of accumulated objects and realize how little of it matters. The books I published, the awards I won, the expensive furniture and art I collected, none of it means anything now. I cannot take it with me, obviously, but more than that, it does not represent anything true about who I was. It represents the performance, the successful academic, the cultured intellectual, the woman who had her life together. But the real me, whoever that was, does not exist in these objects. I found a box of Vivian's childhood art projects, finger paintings and clay sculptures and drawings of our family, stick figures holding hands under a smiling sun. I do not remember saving these. I do not remember thinking they were precious enough to keep, but here they are, carefully stored in acid-free folders, evidence of some maternal impulse I did not know I possessed. I sat with that box for a long time, looking at each piece, trying to remember the child who made them, trying to feel what a mother should feel looking at her daughter's art. What I felt was loss. Not loss of Vivian specifically, but loss of the chance to do any of this differently. Loss of the version of this life where I was a different person, capable of different feelings, able to give this child what she needed. Loss of the relationship we could have had if I had been whole instead of broken. The art projects felt like evidence of a parallel universe, one where these drawings meant something, where they captured moments of connection and joy instead of obligation and performance. I thought about sending the box to Vivian, but what would that accomplish? Here, look at the evidence that I saved your artwork even though I did not love you. Look at how I performed motherhood down to the smallest detail. It would be one more complicated, painful thing to add to the pile of complicated, painful things between us, so I kept the box. Maybe Patricia will know what to do with it after I'm gone. The days are getting harder. I can feel my grip on reality loosening. There are more bad days than good days now. More confusion than clarity. I forget where I am sometimes, why Patricia is here, what year it is. I get frustrated easily, angry at my own uselessness. I cry without knowing why I am crying. I ask the same questions over and over, forgetting I already asked, forgetting the answer even when it is given. This is what the beginning of the end looks like. This is the slope I am sliding down, and there is no stopping, no slowing, just the inevitable acceleration toward complete loss. But in the clear moments, the ones like right now where I can still string thoughts together coherently, I keep coming back to the same question. Did I do the right thing at Vivian's party? Should I have stayed silent, maintained the pretense, let her keep whatever illusions she had about our relationship, or was burning it all down, exposing every ugly truth, the kindest thing I could have done? I genuinely do not know. I thought I knew that night. I thought I was being brave, honest, finally real after a lifetime of performance. But now, with distance and the knowledge of my diagnosis, I wonder if I was just being cruel. If I took my own self-hatred and confusion and fear and weaponized it against the one person who never asked to be part of my life but had no choice in the matter. If I made her absorb 50 years of my failures in one devastating moment because I was too much of a coward to deal with them gradually, honestly, throughout her life, she was right in her letter. I did destroy her that night. I took every fear she had about herself and confirmed it. I took the central relationship of her life and told her it was meaningless. I took her birthday celebration and made it about my pain, my revelation, my brutal honesty that served no one but myself. What kind of person does that? What kind of mother uses her daughter's milestone as the stage for her own psychological explosion? A sick one, maybe. A dying one. A desperate one. A cowardly one who waited until it was too late to be honest because honesty was too hard and lying was too easy. All of the above, none of the above. I do not know anymore. What I do know is that I am running out of time. Time to make sense of any of this. Time to find peace or redemption or understanding. Time to be the person I should have been before I forget who that person was. The window is closing. Soon there will be no more clear moments, no more coherent thoughts, no more ability to reflect on my choices or question my motivations or wonder if things could have been different. Soon there will just be the disease and nothing else. And maybe that is its own kind of mercy. I want to tell you something. Whoever you are watching this, or reading this, or somehow encountering this story, I want to tell you that it is okay to be complicated. It is okay to have feelings about your parents or your children that are not simple or pure or socially acceptable. It is okay to love someone and resent them at the same time. It is okay to grieve a relationship that was never good to begin with. It is okay to feel relieved when someone dies or leaves or cuts contact. It is okay to be angry at someone with a disease for the things they say or do, even though you know it is not entirely their fault. It is okay to not have closure. It is okay to live with ambiguity and contradiction and questions that will never be answered. We are all taught that family should be simple, that mothers automatically love their children, and children automatically love their mothers, and everything else is aberration or dysfunction. But that is not reality. Reality is messy and complicated, and full of people doing their best with damage they did not ask for, and passing down pain they do not know how to heal. Reality is relationships that harm as much as they help. Reality is love that exists alongside resentment and obligation, that masquerades as affection and performance that becomes so ingrained you forget it is not real. If you are struggling with a complicated family relationship, please know that you are not alone. If you are a parent who is not sure you love your child the way you are supposed to, you are not a monster. You are human, and humans are capable of an incredible range of feelings, many of which do not fit the narrative we are given about how we are supposed to feel. That does not make you bad. It makes you real. And if you are a child of a parent who could not love you right, who was cold or distant or neglectful or abusive, please know that it is not your fault. There is nothing you could have done differently. No amount of achievement or perfection or performance would have changed them. Their inability to love you says everything about them and nothing about you. You deserved better. You deserved someone who saw your worth without you having to prove it. And the fact that you did not get that is a tragedy, but it is not a reflection of your value. I wish I could have said these things to Vivian years ago. I wish I could have freed her from the performance decades earlier, but I was too caught up in my own performance to see hers. Too busy maintaining my facade to notice that she was building one too. We were mirrors reflecting back emptiness, each of us waiting for the other to fill it, neither of us capable of doing so. And now it is too late, not just because we are not speaking, though that is true, but because I am running out of self. The person who could have those conversations, who could provide explanations or context or deeper understanding, she is disappearing. Soon she will be gone entirely, and what will remain is just a body, breathing and existing, but empty of everything that made it Eleanor. Is that death, or is it something else? I do not know. I do not have answers about what comes next, or what any of this means, or whether consciousness persists in some form after the brain that houses it has dissolved. I only know that I am afraid, so deeply, profoundly afraid, not of the physical death that will eventually come, but of this slow erasure, this gradual transformation into nothing while still being alive, the preview of death that Alzheimer's offers, showing you your own absence while you are still here to witness it. Patricia is calling me for lunch. I can hear her in the kitchen, the gentle clatter of dishes, the sound of her humming something I do not recognize. She has been so patient with me, so kind, more maternal in these past months than I ever was to Vivian in 50 years. She does not judge me for the things I have done or failed to do. She just shows up, day after day, helping me navigate this impossible situation with grace and humor and compassion. I should go. I should eat even though I am not hungry. Should take my pills even though I do not remember what they are for. Should continue the routines that keep me tethered to something resembling a life for whatever time remains. But before I go, I want to say one more thing. If this story reached you, if you made it all the way through this messy, painful, contradictory narrative, thank you. Thank you for witnessing this. Thank you for holding space for the complicated truth of what it means to be human and flawed and sick and trying. Thank you for not turning away even when it was uncomfortable or ugly or hard to hear. And please, please subscribe to this channel. Not for me, I will not be making more videos much longer, but for the community we can build here. A place where people can tell their own messy stories about family and disease and damage and healing. A place where we do not have to pretend everything is okay or simple or resolved. A place where we can just be honest about how hard this all is. Leave a comment telling me your story if you want. Tell me about your complicated relationship with your mother or your daughter. Tell me about your experience with Alzheimer's or dementia or any disease that steals people slowly. Tell me what you wish you had said or done differently. Tell me what you are grieving. Tell me what you hope for. Let's build something real here together. Something that acknowledges the full spectrum of human experience, not just the parts that are easy to talk about. I see you. I hear you. You are not alone. Even when I forget everything else, I hope I remember that none of us are alone in this, that we are all just trying to make sense of impossible situations with imperfect information and damaged hearts, that we are all doing our best even when our best is not good enough, that we are all worthy of compassion, even when we have failed in spectacular ways. The light is fading now, not just outside, though evening is coming, but inside too. I can feel it. The clarity I have had today, the ability to think and write and express myself coherently, it is slipping away. Soon, I will not be able to do this anymore. Soon, these thoughts will scatter like leaves in wind, impossible to gather, impossible to order into anything meaningful. But for now, for this moment, I am here. I am Eleanor. I am 73 years old. I have Alzheimer's disease. I am a mother who failed her daughter in ways both profound and permanent. I am a woman who spent her life performing and only found authenticity when it was too late for it to matter. I am scared and sad and sorry and still, somehow, hoping that all of this means something. That somewhere in this wreckage there is a lesson or a truth or a piece of wisdom that makes the pain worthwhile. Maybe that is too much to ask. Maybe some stories do not have redemption or closure or meaning. Maybe some stories are just tragic, and the best we can do is witness them and learn what not to do. Maybe I am that cautionary tale, the mother who could not love, the woman who waited until she was losing her mind to tell the truth, the person who destroyed her most important relationship in a desperate bid for honesty that might have been just delusion wearing honesty's face. I do not know. I will never know. And soon I will not even be able to ask the question. But you can. You who are reading this, listening to this, witnessing this. You can take this story and turn it into something useful. You can learn from my mistakes. You can be braver earlier. You can be honest when it still matters. You can break the patterns of damage before you pass them down another generation. You can choose authenticity over performance before disease strips away your ability to choose anything at all. That is all I can offer now. This story, this warning, this messy, imperfect, devastating account of how one life went wrong and stayed wrong until it was too late to fix. Take it, use it, let it mean something even if my life did not. And if you see a woman who looks confused in a grocery store, an old woman who cannot remember where she parked or what she came to buy, or sometimes even who she is, be kind to her. She might be me, or she might be someone else's mother, someone else's cautionary tale, someone else's unfinished story. But she is human, she is scared, she is trying, and she deserves kindness, even if she never gave it herself. Patricia is calling again. I really need to go now, but thank you for reading, for listening, for being here at the end of something that never really had a beginning. I see you. I hear you. You are not alone, and neither am I. Not yet. Not quite yet. Goodbye.